Hello, Mr. Krashen. Can you see me now and hear me?
I can see you, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. First of all, we would like to know why you accepted our invitation to come to Durango, Mexico.
I'd like to know why you invited me.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
why I accepted. I just sit around at home all day, lonely, waiting for people to invite me to speak. And then when they invite me, they say, "Oh, it's amazing you accepted our invitation." So it goes both ways. I'm so happy you invited me. How's that?
Well, we're very excited. Right now, everyone in the office is like looking through the window to see you and to hear you. And well, it's an honor to have Stephen Krashen in Durango, Mexico. And with all of your knowledge with our students, and all the teachers are very interested to meet you and to hear you. That's why we invited you, because it's an honor for us.
I'm completely unprepared for all those kind words.
Oh no, well, thank you. Just take it as a compliment.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we done? That's the entire interview?
Well, it's part of it. I have like a couple of questions for you. Can you tell us about how you started your career, everything related to language teaching and second language acquisition?
I will tell you everything.
Okay.
It all began when I was in high school. And I took French in high school. I took 2 years of French. And I received a passing grade under the condition that I never study French again. Because the teacher didn't want to fail me, to ruin my career and ruin my academic record. He was a very kind man. I really like him. So I was a horrible student in French. Now, in those days, this was in the 1950s, okay, before your mother was born. That's when I was doing all this. In those days, the languages that were the only languages that existed in the United States, this was in Chicago, in the Midwest. The only languages that existed were French and German. They had very high prestige. Nothing else mattered. Spanish did not exist.
Yeah.
Chinese did not exist. Arabic did not exist. And when I went to college, if you wanted to be an impressive person, you got good in French and German. Those were all that counted. And the place to go was Europe. I grew up in a privileged upper middle class background. I cannot tell you a story of great courage, how I overcame great obstacles to become a success, because none of that was true. I had money at home. My parents were well off, not rich, but okay. No family pathology, loving parents, a wonderful sister, and all that. So I can't tell you I overcame great obstacles. And in fact, as a middle class family, my parents paid for me to go to Europe over the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, my first 2 years at the university. My first year at the university, I had studied German. And here's what happened. We were on a bicycle trip through the Rhine Valley. And we stopped at a youth hostel, place where young people stayed that was very cheap. And it was in Switzerland, and there was a big party going on, of course, with very nice teenage kids from all over Europe. And I spent most of the time amazed at the linguistic skill of these teenagers. I remember one young man who was perfect in French and German and also spoke English and was gracefully switching languages all evening. And I thought, I want to be able to do that. The next day, I didn't go on the bicycle trip. They did some touring in Switzerland, and I stayed back. And I thought about this, and I started studying vocabulary of French. And I decided I would devote my career to becoming fluent in 7 languages. And I made a list of them. When it was over, I went to Paris, and I studied French at a language school, and that was the beginning of it. The second thing that happened to me that pushed me along happened about 20 years ago, when I already was a famous guy, all right? I was already doing research and all that. And I was pretty good in a couple of languages. My French was much, much better. I spoke German pretty well. And I agreed to give a short course in Hungary. I gave a 2-week series of lectures at the university in a city called Page, which was Franz Liszt's hometown. There's a big statue of Franz Liszt in this big city. They call him Liszt Franz, last name first. And while I was there giving the lectures, one of my students said, while you're in Hungary, there's someone you should meet. Her name is Lomkato, L-O-M-B-T. She is a national treasure. She's the world's greatest polyglot. She speaks 17 languages.
Wow.
No kidding. And she's this student of mine said, I can arrange a meeting so you can meet Lomkato. Mm-hmm. And I said, great, do it. So she called Lomkato. She said, Professor Krashen from California is here to see you. And Lomkato said, so what? I don't care. And we made an arrangement. And I went to Budapest 3 times just to visit Lomkato and interviewed her. Lomkato changed my life. By the way, my student said, if you want to meet her, you better hurry because she's 86 years old. All right? Yeah. So she died in 2003. Anyway, Lomkato was the real thing. She did speak 17 languages. Every language I knew, she knew better. Her English was excellent. And she did the whole thing in Budapest. Wow. In Hungary. She didn't travel that much. She was an interpreter, a translator, wow. And she did it all as not as a young person. She grew up monolingual Hungarian, but by studying and reading, which fit my theory very well. Anyway, after spending all this time with Lomkato, which was just amazing, our last moments together, and this is what pushed me. As I was saying goodbye, she took my hand and she said to me, Stephen, you're so young. I was 54. So many years left. So many languages to acquire. Isn't that beautiful? That pushed me ahead. I started getting very serious with Hungarian. I had my students give me Hungarian lessons for homework, and we discussed them as a group. I made great progress for the next week I was there. And since that day, I have been involved in language acquisition, my own language acquisition, every single day. And I think about Lomkato every moment because of that. So I got my German got better because I've been reading a lot in German. I've been alternating really second-class literature. We call it, the technical term is basura, okay, just junk reading in French, German, and now I've started Spanish. And I read one novel in each language and then keep switching. I'm now reading a Star Trek novel in translation in Spanish, which is of very low literary quality, but it's so much fun. I mean, so that did it. It was Lomkato who pushed me ahead, and I'm still interested in languages and examining my own process in language acquisition. The ones I'm good at, I'm good in French and German and English. The ones I'm mediocre in, and that's Spanish and Hebrew. Mm-hmm. And the ones I'm not so good in, which is Amharic from Ethiopia. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm also pretty good in Yiddish, but that's very close to German. Yes. And I'm terrible in Mandarin, and that's a great experience. When I speak Mandarin to people, they just stare at me. And then start to laugh, which is, not very encouraging, but I stay with it. So that's the story. That's how I got involved, and that's what keeps Lomkato, that one experience, pushes me ahead. If she could make progress living in Budapest without the other languages around her all the time, struggling to find reading material, so could I. So that's the long answer to your short question.
Well, it's very, very interesting and motivating because I was thinking while you were telling the story that this is a story to tell our students. Because sometimes they complain about the amount of time they have to study or learn languages. And it's like, well, you have your whole life. It doesn't matter when you start. So it's very interesting. Your story is motivating.
So now that I'm calling you Vicky, you have to call me Steve, okay?
Oh, okay. It's going to be weird, but I'm going to try.
You can do that. You can do that.
Okay. So I have another question based on
I was going to say something else about what you said, which is an interesting comment, the issue of time.
Yes.
Time is artificially imposed on us by amateurs who have no idea of how language is acquired or really how people learn. It's like hospital administrators telling surgeons how to operate, or the government telling women that from now on, pregnancy will only last for 6 months. And you must have the baby in 6 months, and we're going to make a lot of money on incubators.
Yeah.
No, that's not it. Language acquisition takes time, and the purpose of our classes is to make you an intermediate so you can understand some language outside of school and to tell you how to improve on your own,
Yeah.
which takes the pressure off students, I think. So that was a very interesting remark you made.
Yeah, yeah, and it's true. And again, it's going to be so interesting when students check the interview because they're going to see it from a different point of view, and it's not only the teachers that they have or the facilitators or however they call them around the world. And for them, it's going to be like, wow, it's something new, or I already know that, but I'm listening to someone who's an expert. Because sometimes we're just the teachers.
And the reason I'm going to sabotage your entire interview. The
No, it's
reason that it's hard to do, not only the exams and expectations, but when you finish your language class, it's very hard to get input.
Mm-hmm.
It's even in English, which is the richest supply of books, audio tapes, videos. Even in English, it's difficult. And if you want to get better at any other language, it's nearly impossible. And the foreign language profession, with a few exceptions, has made no effort to solve this problem. They're mostly interested in setting silly standards and making new tests. These are people with too much time on their hands, in my opinion. What we need are libraries full of good things to read, magazines, books, graded readers, easy readers, intermediate readers, good audio, things that are comprehensible and interesting at the same time. This is my problem with all my languages. It's even my problem in Spanish living in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find things that are interesting and comprehensible. I've been reading science fiction, but also novellas.
Okay.
I'm a real man. I can read novellas. Okay, I'm confident in my masculinity, so I can read novellas. Okay, which I find to be quite interesting. All right, you know, it's day-to-day life. It's the real drama, the real stories. But it's not easy. It's not easy even living in a heavily Spanish-speaking area like Southern California. It's not easy.
Yes, and well, you don't have only the Mexican Spanish. You have a lot of kind of Spanishes, so it also it's rich and it's complicated or complex at the same time.
That's true in all languages. I only understand Mexican Spanish being an intermediate. My best friend, my workout partner at the gym, is from Argentina, and his mother comes and visits all the time, and I really like her. When I speak to her in Mexican Spanish, she understands everything. Then she answers me in Argentinian Spanish, and I understood absolutely nothing. So we always wind up speaking Yiddish, which is the language of her parents and the language of my grandparents, which is very comfortable for both of us.
Yeah.
But this is true in all languages. You're better at the other versions when you go past the intermediate stage. I think the answer for me, Mexican Spanish, then all Spanishes will be more comprehensible. Mm-hmm. That's my private theory right now.
I believe you. That's what Mexicans feel. And you can ask them when you come here. Well, based on what you were saying also, do you know that the name of our conference is Input Before Output? So it's kind of like based on what you were saying.
I accept it. Come on, that's great.
Oh, well, it's kind of like when you were invited and the name, they were struggling. I think that's why they decided for that name. So that was Ms. Kay's idea, our principal's idea.
Excellent.
Well, we would like to know your point of view of how you see education in Mexico and how you see like the English language teachers from Mexico who work here or work outside of Mexico. I don't know if you have experienced any contact with us or them or something you would like to say about them.
I will make comments about Mexico.
Okay.
But before I do that, everything I'm about to say applies worldwide.
Okay.
I have worked in many different countries, travel a lot, one step ahead of the law, right? Always on the run. I'm getting complaints in every country, and they are valid in every country, and they are equally serious. I'll give you a list. The biggest problem, of course, is testing, which is all for the profit of a few rich men. That's all it's about. I love my job. I'm not employed, so I can say anything I want, okay? I can't be fired. This is great. But someone has to say it. And this is really true in the United States with what is called the Common Core, which is a tsunami destroying education, and it will destroy it worldwide. The goal is to test every child to make more money for a few corporations, a few rich guys, and a few women, but mostly rich, fat rich guys, fat in terms of their bank accounts, and not worry. And profit is the only criteria that people use. So students are being tested more than ever, and it's happening every single country. So this is the biggest problem. And the tests are, even if the tests were perfect, I would be against them, but they're awful. There are more of them than there ever before, and they ignore everything we know about learning, not just in language, but in everything. They have ignored Piaget completely, what is developmentally appropriate, etc. So this is the big one. Another problem all countries have is access to books. A few countries that have a lot of access to books generally have the highest, scores on all the international tests. In fact, we have found in our studies that even poor countries do a lot better when they have good libraries. In fact, a good library will balance the effect of poverty on language development. This is first language and reading skills, etc. The special problem for English is the issue of non-native speakers teaching English. And I have made myself very unpopular in Hong Kong. If you look at the South China Morning Press of about 6 months ago, you will see a series of letters, very bitter, started by my letter, of course, in which I said, you don't need to be a native speaker to teach the language. We would much rather have a non-native speaker who knows what they're doing than a native speaker who doesn't, obviously. And throughout the world, we have native speakers teaching English who haven't the slightest idea what they're doing. Besides, it's not a question of accent. Everyone's worried, oh, they'll get this terrible accent and all that. No, they won't. Students get the accent not of their teacher, but of their friends. In fact, most kids today speak English with Justin Bieber's accent, because that's what they listen to. Oh, Katy Perry's accent now. She's overcome Justin Bieber. I know, I try to keep up with these things.
I know.
All right?
I know.
So it's the peer group that counts, not the teacher. The teacher, and generally, a lot of the teachers that I've seen have pretty good accents anyway. And what counts is that they speak English reasonably well. Doesn't have to be perfect, because the students are going to get a lot of input elsewhere. So these are the common issues I see. It's over-testing, lack of libraries, visual and audio and books and print, and trusting competent non-native speakers of English to be teachers.
Yeah.
¿Algo más?
Well, our students are going to be excited because their BA is English language teaching, so they're not natives. It's going to be encouraging, even that we tell them now they know it from someone who sees it globally.
There's more. What is a good accent? The idea of English is no longer the property of the United States or the UK or New Zealand. What people want to do is not necessarily speak English the way Steve Krashen does. They're like an American. They want to speak English as an educated, intellectual person does, not the accent of any particular country. And that means an excellent accent, but not necessarily native.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know how long you have for the interview. We could ask you millions of questions, but basically you said everything we wanted to know. I don't know if you would like to add something to our audience who's going to check the interview. They're going to be students, teachers, learners, academics who are studying from their masters, PhDs. All kind of participants are going to come to the conference. I don't know if you want to tell them something.
Yes, I do. I want to present a commercial message.
Okay, yes.
Commercial message to help Steve Krashen's career.
Okay.
I am no longer publishing articles, or very few of them, in so-called prestige expensive journals.
Okay.
I am no longer publishing expensive books because nobody can afford them.
Okay.
This all happened a few years ago when I had an article in an edited collection called Input Matters. I will not mention the name of the publisher. Okay. Multilingual Matters. How's that? Put it out there. And the book came out, and it cost, hardcover, $160 American. Okay. That's ridiculous.
Yes.
I can't afford to buy copies, even at author's discount. Okay? Mm-hmm. By the way, the Amazon price is usually lower than my author's discounts. That's where I get them. So I looked around, and I also noticed that I was spending a huge amount of money on journals, and nobody can afford these things. The only people who can afford reading this stuff and buying these books, you have to be either independently wealthy, or you have to be a college professor, a university professor at a wealthy university that will give you this stuff. So there's a new point of view.
Yeah.
We say in the cowboy movies, a new sheriff in town. This is how it's going to be. Everything I write is for free. Okay. It's all available on my website, yes. www.sdkrashen.com. D stands for David, my middle name.
Yes.
And I'm constantly adding things to the website. Every few days, I'm trying to scan my old papers and post them. So it's probably going to take me about 2 years to get everything on. But I'm putting in an article every few days, etc. I advertise the articles, and some are from yesterday. I did one from 2002, the day before 1991. They're all advertised in two places: Facebook and Twitter. I'm S. Krashen on Twitter, and you can see what's been posted. Free download. Don't ask me permission. This is the point. Okay. If I ever write another book, all the chapters will be there on the internet somewhere, and it will not cost $160. Two other things.
Yes.
I am retired, and I have all day long to work. Okay. I spend my time going to the gym, playing with my grandchildren, and working. And some days I work 12, 14 hours, a luxury that nobody else has that I know of. I cannot keep up with the literature. Mm-hmm. Not only do I have more time, but I probably have more background knowledge than most people. I probably can read this stuff faster than most people. I know the work extremely well because 2/3 of it is an attack on me usually, so I know the work very well.
Okay.
I kept a lot of people off the streets busy doing stuff, okay? Anyway, and I can't keep up with this stuff. There's too much. I've decided two things are wrong. Number one, the articles are too long.
Okay.
The articles that I post, many of them are short, about a page, page and a half, 2 pages.
Good, yeah.
I'll tell you an interesting story. I get invitations from journals to review papers all the time. And I write them back and say, I'm happy to review papers, which is true. This is the obligation. But my limit is 5 pages. I will review a paper if it's 5 pages or less. I started that 5 years ago. I have not reviewed a single paper for a single journal. People think they're writing term papers or doctoral dissertations.
Yeah.
So short is the new way. Also, the paper that won the Nobel Prize for DNA was 1 page long.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All there. Also, no more gibberish, no more hot air, pages and pages. I think what my accusation is that mediocre scholars try to cover up their sloppy work by making it so long that no one's going to read the details.
Yeah.
So we're going to make it short. I wrote 2 papers about this. They're on my website. One is called A Short Paper on Why We Should Write Short Papers, and the other is called Academic Gibberish. I must tell you one story, and then I'll finally stop.
No, you're fine, don't worry.
At the one major university, a medical school, 2 professors were given the task of setting up a lecture series on and they decided to hire a professional actor, an actor who is kind of like an excellent actor, but not a top star. It wasn't George Clooney or Denzel Washington, okay?
Okay.
It was just a guy who was pretty good. And he had played the part of doctors on some TV shows. So people wouldn't quite recognize him, but he looked like an authority. They gave him a script that was total and complete nonsense. but very complicated with lots of charts and statistics. He came, gave the talk, and because he was a professional actor, he did an outstanding job. It was vigorous, exciting, humorous. He had practiced, he had it all down. It was voted the most effective lecture of the year, the best lecture of the year. The idea is, if I don't understand it, it must be very important. And the lecturer must be much smarter than I am. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to change, my goal is to change the genre of academic writing. It should not be that academic writing is limited to a few professors. It should be free and available to everyone.
Yes.
I publish now in online journals that are free for people to read.
Yeah.
Our field has been very slow to catch on. Other fields, mathematics is going for this very vigorously. Most mathematicians now do not publish at the expensive journals. They have argued that the expensive journals just take our money. They're expensive, and we do all the work, and the publishers make all the profit. Also, Harvard University is now pushing, has stopped subscribing to journals for its library. Too expensive. Mm-hmm. They want cheaper things. They want their faculty to publish in online journals. So all this is changing. I think this is good news.
Yeah, it's good news for everyone. And I think our researchers are going to be very happy for that. And we do use your website, and we also follow you on Facebook and Twitter, and we recommend our students and people that we have in our social media to do the same thing. So yeah, we're doing our job in the sense of publishing your website, so
and you will help me reach my goal of catching up to Justin Bieber.
Okay, yes, I will help you. I will tell you what the kids in Mexico are onto right now. I think it's Katy Perry. I don't know. Do you know someone else? Lady Gaga.
Yeah, I know. The ratings have gone up and down the last few months. Justin Bieber was @1 for a long time.
Yes.
Lady Gaga caught up, and now it's Katy Perry.
Wow.
I was introduced to Katy Perry by my 8-year-old Nieta, who sat me down and said, "You have got to see Roar. This is so cool." So she made me watch it 3 times. And that's what pushed Katy Perry ahead, which is quite interesting, I think. Feminist statement. It's great.
And then the Super Bowl, and she appearing in many places. So I guess everyone is looking at her right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Krashen, this time has been very interesting. I'm going to be the one who's going to pick you up in the airport, so you will recognize me. Here I am.
Late at night, too. Oh, thank you.
Yes, I know. And also, both ways, we try to have a good schedule for you. And, well, you will see me around a lot, and thank you very much. I don't know if you want some closing lines or something extra to say, but we were very excited for the interview, and we are very happy that you accepted.
Okay, I'm looking forward to seeing you and everybody else.
Okay.
We'll have a good time.
Thank you very much.